Hi, my name's Chris Stening. I'm Senior Advisor with 8 Advisory, and I'm joined today by Ben Allwright, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Oggy. Hi, Ben.
Yeah, hi, Chris.
And also by Nick Breadner, a partner here at 8 Advisory. So we're going to talk a bit about the report that we rolled out and have a bit of a conversation with Ben. So, Nick, I'll hand over to you to start things off.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for taking the time, Ben. So I guess let's just jump straight into it. What struck you most about the piece and what did you take from it?
Fundamentally, I thought it was a good report, actually. It really addressed some of the key issues. I think it's easy to characterize the fibre industry and fibre altnets all very similarly, but actually there's a lot of differences between the various operators out there. And certainly it addressed the sort of the retail versus wholesale point, but obviously you've also got the difference between the kind of more urban and rural providers. You've got those with a very regional strategy, those are sort of maybe more diffuse and are building sort of everywhere at once. And you've got those who maybe are providing just a very simple broadband product, up to those operators who maybe got a more sophisticated offering covering maybe wholesale long distance and also business services as well. So maybe that's something to consider as well when we characterize altnets, as the report set out to do at the beginning. But generally, I thought there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. I think one of the things it did was highlight some of the complexities and challenges of becoming a retailer. But obviously, that's a route that Oggy has taken, and we're really pleased that we have. But I think, coming along with making that choice, you need to invest a lot of time and energy into building your brand and being very clear about your purpose and, who you are as an organization, who the customers are you're trying to address, and really build a brand and a presence and an ethos and values that really underpin becoming a retailer. Because it's a big deal, right, building a consumer brand. And I can understand why a lot of operators, as you point out in the report, sort of chose to do that. It's simpler in many respects. It aligns quite well with the kind of the models of Openreach and others. But of course, without very, very significant scale, it's also difficult to place your future, your prosperity in the hands of ISPs, because until you've got that scale, it's hard to bring those operators to your network, those ISPs to your network to any real degree with any real commitment. And of course, you've got all of those integration challenges as well. So no, in general, I thought that the report was smart. It talked a lot about things like hyper-local, which is, really building your brand up locally, really working with local communities. It's the thing that Oggy's really proud of. We've got various funds and lots of initiatives that target really us getting under the skin of those communities. We're a massive believer in talkability and building trust. One of the things that the large operators have struggled to do is gain and build trust and maintain trust over the long term. Of course, they have the advantage of being around for a long time, so there's a certain degree of sort of latent trust. But if you look at Trustpilot scores and things like that as well, you'll see they struggle to deliver service performance and sort of maintain that trust. So a very interesting report, and there's a lot in there that plays, I think, to a lot of the strategic and sort of tactical choices we've taken too.
Let me just pick up on that point that you made there, Ben, about your retail brand. You've clearly built a really exciting retail brand. How have you balanced doing that alongside building a network in a rural area as well?
We recognise right from the get-go that as important as building up the sort of the network build and delivery and operations and machinery, we needed to really focus on building a consumer brand that resonated. Now, we're fortunate in that we've chosen a target geography with a really strong sense of identity. Wales has a very strong sense of national pride and national identity. We, as much as possible, tried to tap into that right from the outset and build a brand that was strong in purpose. It's for Wales, it's in Wales, it's of Wales. We employ Welsh people, we employ a lot of Welsh businesses to support us in our ecosystem. So by really bringing that in and then just investing the time up front, laying out that purpose, laying out those sort of values, and then building that into our culture so that we hire against those values, we performance manage against those values, and if necessary, we exit or change to maintain those values in our organization. And I think that means that we've got a very authentic brand that's very Welsh. I mean, Oggy, Oggy, Oggy. I mean, it's a rallying call, right? It's a terrace chant. It's fun. It's engaging. It starts a conversation. We really wanted to tap into that Welshness and make sure that we were bringing something to market that was demonstrably different from anything that had been before. BT, Virgin, TalkTalk, these are credible brands, right? These are big brands. They have huge marketing budgets. How do you cut through all of the noise about fibre? How do you cut through the ultras, the gigas, the networks, the fibre, all of these terms that are used so readily? But what do they mean when it comes down to sort of heart-based decisions rather than head-based decisions? What do they really mean? So we really tried to build a brand early on that talked to people's heart rather than just their head. Obviously, you need excellent products, well priced, and ultimately you need to deliver fantastic service. But we also tried to get under the skin of the Welsh people. And then we built upon that by recognising what people in Wales value, the social aspects, the community aspects, and really built them into what we stand for. So probably, if I'm honest, we may have got further ahead with the build if we'd have been so focused on builds from the get-go, and we'd have sort of maybe pushed things like branding to the back of the queue, but we really wanted to make that a key part of becoming a vertically integrated provider. We also spend a lot of time developing not only a residential product portfolio, but a business product portfolio, and we went out to the market with VoIP as well as broadband, as well as all those business services. So it was quite a lot of investment early on. I think probably there are other outlets that have galloped ahead and maybe built more premises than us faster. We wanted something that was here for the long term, that would be the Welsh alternative telecommunications provider, not just another altnet, certainly not one looking to flog their assets to another bigger altnet, not one that was just about building asset value through prems past, but one that really resonated and was here for the long term. So I think that's been great for us. I would strongly recommend that people recognise that building a retailer is a very significant investment of time and energy. It's not something you slap on the network when you're done.
Perfect, thank you. And I think that leads us into a little bit on the next question we had for you here, which was, what's your view on why the altnet penetration is lower than Openreach?
Yeah, I think your report touched on some good points around this. I mean, fundamentally, it is still quite an early mover product. There are some people, the gamers, the heavy home users, the hybrid workers, particularly people who work in technology industries or IT savvy, who recognise that 200 meg is demonstrably and massively different and better than 40 meg. But there's a large percentage of the market who doesn't really see that and who won't necessarily get the utility out of that. And faced with making a choice between you or an existing provider, even if you're providing more speed at a better price, may well just stick with their existing provider anyway, because switching apathy mainly. But increasingly, I think with COVID and with the number of people now home working, people are recognising the value of fibre and the difference between fibre as a catchphrase and real fibre that comes all the way to your door. But it's taking a while to build that momentum. I think we are seeing that momentum come through. The altnets are gaining market share much more quickly than the incumbent operators, right? So although we still maybe lag behind people's aspirations, firstly, I think some of those aspirations were just unreasonable. There are quite a few altnets out there who thought they'd have 30, 40, 50% of the market just by delivering a fibre network. And I think that was a bit naive. But ultimately, I think the momentum is building. Clearly, if you go into an area with very poor broadband provision and you come in there with a really good product and well priced, you're going to see your very strong take-up. We had plenty of villages and sort of rural areas where we were able to go in and get 50%, 70% take-up in sort of small pockets. But when you go into larger communities, which may already have super fast, where 40 meg, 50 megabits may be the average, you're having to compete on more than just speed. You're really having to educate and inform, and you're having to probably come in with pricing and offers that providing that switching impetus for people. So I also think people tend to underestimate the incumbents. I mean, maybe they have low trust pilots and maybe they are a little bit slow and maybe they are very reliant on Openreach and a huge program of works. But they're also pretty smart at making people that when fibre is available, people are switched quite quickly and quite seamlessly. They're very good at marketing. They're very good at catching people who are coming out of contract and recontracting them. Those things are impediments to altnets grabbing customers, even if they come to a good point where they might want to switch. There's lots of reasons. You touched on many in the report about brand awareness, about fibre understanding, about first mover advantage, about people being in contract. And so there's lots to think about to get the customers. But my personal belief, and certainly from Oggie's perspective, is the customers are coming. I mean, many of us now have slowed down our builds for a while capital is more scarce. But actually, that's not, for us, been the impediment to selling that we thought it would be. I mean, our original thesis was we need to constantly be releasing more network, to give us the customers. But actually, we found that by getting the right products and the right positioning at the right price, and having now built ahead of steam with our brand and our reputation, the customers are coming. And as more and more customers are happy to cut the cord on Sky and cut the cord on Virgin, and more and more people are buying OTT services, people are coming. I personally think that the biggest challenge for many altnets is just the scale of overbuild. If you're in a community where there are 3 or 4 other competing providers, even if you're fantastic, what percentage take-up can you really expect to get out of even a mature market? If you focused more on more rural areas, and you've got quite a complete offering, and you've built a really, really strong brand and a great reputation, maybe you can be one of those operators that gets to 30, 40, 50%. Why not? For a lot of operators, it's just, overbuild. And that's where I think people are turning to things like consolidation, because they're running out of ideas. Where we're playing, where there's still relatively low amounts of competition, great product, great price, people will come over time.
So you talk quite a lot about the things that have made Oggy successful, and you talked about your brand that you're very proud of, and justifiably so. You talked about the purpose that you're living and making everything Welsh, having the right products and services. Do you think that it's that combination of all of those factors that's made you successful, or is there something else in there?
I think company culture, I'd say, is a strong part of what makes us a good company. The shared experience, the shared passion. Welsh people are extremely passionate. I'm not Welsh, but I really love working with them. They're really passionate. They're really passionate to do something great for Wales. And although I think at the doorstep people are buying on product and price in the main, I still think there is this real strong sense of community and people getting on board with something. So I would say there's a lot to do with the passion of the staff and the people and the ecosystem we operate in. It's also fantastic to operate in an environment where you can reach people, the senior stakeholders very quickly. So, we're able to get to, in a way that, I've spent a lot of my time working in England, but it's very difficult to get to people in power. Their diaries are so chaotic and they're so hard to reach. But in a place like Wales, where lots of people are interconnected and internetworked, news travels fast, and it's quite easy to get handed around. It's relatively easy to get meetings with MPs, MSs, member of the Senate, or even the First Minister if you wanted to. These things are doable. So it's quite easy to build a reputation at the senior stakeholder level and get that support and advocacy. And I'd say we had a lot of support in Wales from those people who can provide you some wind in your sails. We've been really fortunate to operate in this kind of place. I think it's so crowded in a lot of England now, really, really difficult to cut through and get the kind of support we get here in Wales. So I think that it's a big part of our success.
Ben, thank you so much. It's a really lovely story about what you've built and created with your team in South Wales. We look forward to following your success. So 20%, I saw that you've passed, just keep going. What's next on plan for Oggy? Further expansion?
Yeah, I think like most businesses, I think we're all looking for more funding. We'd all like to do a bit more. There's still loads to go at. I believe there's loads to go at. And beyond the residential community, there's lots and lots of really exciting business in Wales as well. It's been a fantastic place for investment. There's one of Europe's largest data centres here. There are 2 more slated to come into South Wales in fairly short order. There's a subsea landing cable coming in West Wales. There's a lot of activity. It's big in the tech sector. It's big in the fintech sector. It's big in the media sectors. There's loads going on in Wales. So I think spending as much time tapping into and building networks for the business community as well. We just built a really exciting high capacity trunk route between Cardiff to that data centre in Newport called Vantage, and then all across the Prince of Wales Bridge and into England. We plan to connect that into Bristol as well. Looking at all of the aspects of the ecosystem, working with Welsh Government, working with other major Welsh stakeholders to develop out other sites. There's lots of post-industrial sites as well that are being sort of slated for further investment. So like most operators, we'd like more capital, but there are also just fantastic opportunities in Wales that we'd like to tap into and really work with those stakeholders to make Wales as prosperous as we can possibly make it. And so finding those synergies and aligning our interests with Welsh interests, I think has been one of our key strengths. We intend to keep doing that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Ben. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, Chris and Nick.
Thank you, Ben.
Speak to you again.